When I first started at the firm, I didn't expect to get caught up in anything more than late nights with spreadsheets and endless coffee runs. The office was competitive, sharp, full of people who thrived on stress. I kept my head down, but then Adam entered the picture. He wasn't my boss, but he was senior enough that I ended up working with him constantly. He was one of those people who carried himself with quiet confidence, the type of guy everyone respected without him even trying. At first, it was just guidance. He'd swing by my desk to explain a report, invite me along for lunch when the rest of the team forgot to include me, or drop a meme in my inbox at 10 p.m. when we were both still working. Then came the nickname. One day, while grabbing coffee, he laughed and said, "Come on, work wife, you're supposed to know my order by now." I rolled my eyes, but inside something lit up. The nickname stuck. Soon, the whole office started calling me his work wife. Every meeting, every group lunch, people teased us about being inseparable. And I loved it. It felt like I had a special role in his life, something more than just another coworker. I told myself it was just playful banter, but deep down, I was catching feelings. I started dressing a little nicer on the days I knew I'd be working closely with him. When he saved me a seat in the conference room, my stomach flipped. When he defended my work during a heated discussion, I told myself that meant something. I even convinced myself that the late-night texts about office jokes or client drama were proof he cared about me outside of work. For months, I lived in that illusion. He never said anything inappropriate, never crossed a professional line, but I twisted every small kindness into something bigger. I told my friends, "He basically treats me like his girlfriend, just without the label." They warned me not to get carried away, but I brushed them off. I was sure that when the timing was right, things would shift. Then came the quarterly happy hour. Everyone was buzzing about it all week, excited to let loose. I assumed Adam would go solo like always, maybe spend most of the night talking with me like we usually did. But when he walked in, he wasn't alone. He had a woman with him. Not just a date. His girlfriend. She was older, confident, polished in a way I could never compete with. A 42-year-old consultant, sharp and witty, completely at ease in the crowd. She slipped her hand into his like it belonged there, smiled at everyone, and introduced herself without a hint of insecurity. And Adam? He looked proud to have her by his side. When she found out who I was, she laughed lightly and said, "Oh, so you're the famous work wife." Everyone chuckled. Adam laughed too. My cheeks burned. I forced a laugh, but inside, I felt like I'd been publicly slapped. The rest of the night was torture. Every time he touched her arm, every time she leaned in close, I felt like I was disappearing. I drank too much, laughed too loudly, tried to insert myself into conversations just to prove I wasn't irrelevant. But all I did was embarrass myself. The next week at work, I couldn't hide my bitterness. I snapped at a coworker who asked me a simple question. I made a passive-aggressive comment when Adam complimented someone else's work. I thought I was subtle, but everyone noticed. People stopped inviting me to lunch. The whispers in the break room grew louder. Eventually, HR called me in. They said employees had complained that I was creating a hostile environment. That I made snarky comments whenever Adam's name came up. That I was being difficult to work with. Hostile. That word stung. I wanted to defend myself, but what could I say? That I was jealous because the man I thought secretly liked me turned out to actually like someone else? That I built up a whole fantasy in my head and now I was lashing out because it wasn't real? Adam hasn't said much since then. He still greets me politely, still cracks the occasional joke, but the warmth is gone. It's professional. Distant. I can see in his eyes that he knows I crossed a line, even if he'll never say it outright. Meanwhile, I'm left with the reputation of being the problem employee. The coworkers who once teased me about being his work wife now avoid me altogether. The group lunches, the after-work drinks. I'm not invited anymore. Even the interns pick up on the shift. They keep their heads down when I walk past, as if they're afraid of becoming my next target. The worst part is knowing that I did this to myself. I wasn't cheated on. I wasn't betrayed. I wasn't even in a relationship. I fell for a man who never promised me anything, convinced myself he felt the same, and then spiraled when reality hit me in the face. Adam. He walks past my desk at the end of the day, his girlfriend sometimes waiting for him outside, and I sit there staring at my screen, pretending to be busy. He's happy. She's confident. And I'm just the bitter coworker who thought being someone's work wife meant more than it ever did. I thought I had a place in his life. Turns out, I was just the punchline to an office joke. I said my coworkers hated me because I'm pretty. Now every guy in the office avoids me on purpose. When I first started at the company, I thought it would finally be my chance to shine. I was 27, freshly hired into a mid-level marketing role, and ready to prove myself. On the first day, I wore my favorite pencil skirt, curled my hair just right, and smiled at everyone. I wanted to make an impression, and I did. But not in the way I hoped. By the end of that first week, I noticed the looks. Not the admiring kind, not the welcoming kind, but the sidelong glances women gave me when I walked past, the whispers that cut off when I entered the break room, the way one girl nudged another when I walked into meetings. At first I brushed it off. Office politics, I told myself. Maybe I was imagining things. But then came the comments. Subtle ones at first. You look really dressed up for a Monday. Some of us don't have time to do a full face of makeup before work. I'd laugh awkwardly and say something light, but the message was clear. They didn't like me. They didn't like that I put effort into how I looked, that I wore heels, that I carried myself with confidence. I tried to make friends anyway. I joined them for lunch in the cafeteria, asked about their weekends, complimented their presentations. It didn't work. The group chats they had didn't include me. The after-work happy hours were always spur of the moment, but somehow planned without me. The only people who didn't treat me coldly were the men. They smiled, they asked about my projects, they held doors open for me. I leaned into it, because what else was I supposed to do? One Friday, during a team meeting, the tension boiled over. I gave a presentation I had worked hard on. Slides polished, data sharp, every point rehearsed. When I finished, my manager smiled and said, "Great job." I felt proud, until a woman on my team, Angela, muttered just loud enough for the others to hear. "Yeah, everything's easier when you get help from the guys." A couple of them snickered. My stomach dropped. She was implying I only did well because men liked me, because I batted my eyelashes and got special treatment. That night, I vented to a friend outside of work. I said the words I probably should have kept to myself. They only hate me because I'm pretty. My friend laughed, but the more I said it, the more I believed it. It made sense. Why else would they freeze me out? Why else would they act like I didn't belong? The problem was, I didn't just say it to her. I said it at work, too. One morning in the break room, after another round of side-eye and fake smiles, one of the guys joked that the women in the office were intimidated by me. I laughed, rolling my eyes, and blurted out, "Well, they just hate me because I'm pretty." I meant it as a joke. I thought maybe if I leaned into it, people would laugh, the tension would break. Instead, the silence that followed was suffocating. One of the women set her coffee down a little too hard and walked out. Another gave me a tight smile and followed. The guy who'd made the joke shifted awkwardly and muttered, "Right," before excusing himself. I tried to shake it off, but that single sentence spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone seemed to know I had said it. The whispers grew louder, not quieter. The women looked at me with open hostility now, not just coldness. And worse, the men who used to talk to me started pulling back, too. At first, I didn't notice. I thought they were just busy. But then one by one, the little gestures stopped. The guy who used to bring me an extra coffee didn't anymore. The one who'd linger at my desk to chat about sports suddenly kept conversations clipped and professional. Even my manager, who had always been supportive, started addressing me with a distance that hadn't been there before. I realized how bad it had gotten when I walked into the lunchroom one afternoon and sat down at a half-empty table. Within minutes, the people around me got up, one after another, until I was sitting alone with my salad. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence, but deep down I knew. Word had gotten around. I was the pretty girl who thought she was better than everyone else. It only got worse from there. A new project was assigned, and normally I'd have been included. I had the right experience, the right skills. But my name wasn't on the list. When I asked my manager about it, he said, "We just thought it might be better to balance the team differently this time." His voice was polite, but the look in his eyes told me the truth. I wasn't trusted anymore. They didn't see me as hardworking. They saw me as vain, shallow, arrogant. I tried to fix it. I stayed late, took on extra assignments, toned down my outfits, wore flats instead of heels. I even skipped makeup some days, hoping to look more relatable. It didn't matter. The damage was done. Every effort looked like overcompensation. Every word I spoke was met with polite but empty smiles. I was no longer part of the team. The loneliness ate at me. I went from being someone who loved my job to dreading walking into the building. I cried in the bathroom more times than I care to admit, staring at my reflection, and wondering if maybe I was the problem. Was I too confident? Did I really say things that came across as arrogant without realizing it? Or were they just waiting for a reason to push me out? The breaking point came during a company happy hour. I almost didn't go, but I told myself maybe this was my chance to reset things, to show I could laugh and be part of the group. I ordered a drink, joined a circle of coworkers, and tried to join the conversation. They nodded politely, then turned their backs to me. I ended up sitting at the bar alone while everyone else laughed together. When I finally left, I overheard one of them whisper, "She really thinks she's better than us." That night, I lay awake replaying everything. I realized the truth. Maybe they didn't hate me because I was pretty. Maybe they hated me because I made it about being pretty. I had given them the excuse they needed to write me off completely, and they took it. Now the office feels like a battlefield where I'm the only one left standing, and not in a victorious way. My projects are minimal, my input ignored, my days long and silent. The men avoid me just as much as the women do. It's not admiration. It's avoidance. David, the one guy who still talks to me sometimes, said quietly the other day, "You know, if you want people to respect you, you've got to stop making it about looks. Show them what you can do, not what you look like." His tone wasn't cruel, just matter of fact. But it stung, because it was the truth. I'd wasted so much energy trying to justify myself, trying to explain why I was disliked, that I hadn't focused on what actually mattered. The irony is, I really do work hard. I know my stuff. But no one sees that now. They just see the girl who once said, "They hate me because I'm pretty," and wrote her off as arrogant. That one careless sentence has followed me like a shadow I can't escape. I thought being noticed was enough. I thought standing out would make me valuable. Instead, it made me an outcast. And now, sitting alone at my desk while everyone else chats around me, I finally understand. I didn't just lose their respect. I lost my place entirely.